This is episode number 370 of WP Watercooler, the WordPress PHP update problem making new code and keeping me old. This episode is brought to you by ServerPress, Maker's Desktop Server. They make local WordPress development easy. Check them out over at serverpress.com. And our new show, The Query, go check out The Query over at WPwatercooler.com/The Query. Ask Jason Cosper a question. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog.
I'm Steve Zango. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
I'm Say Reed. I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress at Say Reed Media on all the things.
My name is Russell Aaron. I do things with WordPress in Las Vegas.
It's Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg.
Go support us over on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/WPWatercooler. Hit the little subscribe button. We'd appreciate it. And click the bell. The bell lets you know that we're going live like we did just now, and you'll get notifications of that.
We're live?
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? We are live. This time we actually hit the live button.
Wow.
So for those of you in the, listening to us later or watching us, we had some issues on Friday, and hopefully things work out.
For the record, I have a lot of issues.
Right. It's
well,
true.
we're just saving you from having to go to therapy. Is all that's happening here.
Actually, this really is just therapy for me. That's all this is.
Oh man! So yesterday we had Say Reed on the show. We're hoping that she may jump in at some point. If she does, that's great. If not, we're still going to be discussing this anyhow. We're going to be talking about WordPress and it dealing with PHP and versions of PHP and how you should go about looking at that. How should we start this thing off? I'm always
Well,
I don't want to set the trajectory incorrectly here.
Yeah, before we get into opinions, let me give a little bit of a factual history on the technologies that are out there.
Sounds great. Yeah.
And so I'm looking at Wikipedia right now, and according to Wikipedia, right, PHP 5.6 was released in August of 2014. And was supported through December of 2018. Right, the latest version of PHP is 7.x, depending on what server you're running. There was no PHP 6; it was skipped. PHP 7.2 is probably 7.3 is the current version. 7.2 is still supported, but it's moving fast. So 7.2 is supported only through November of this year. 7.3 came out in December of 2018. Coincidentally, right when 5.6 was sunsetted or supported through, and it is supported through December of next year, right? And so that's just a little bit of history of PHP, and the reason we're talking about this is there's still a lot of servers out there that are running PHP 5.6, which again was only supported through December of 2018. It is a 6-year-old, as of this month, a 6-year-old technology.
Dang,
Yeah.
and the whole world's running off of it. That's fun.
Yeah, and so the issue is, and this comes up in every version of WordPress, is should WordPress support older versions of PHP than the currently supported version, right? Meaning, should it support versions of PHP prior to PHP 7.x or PHP 5.6, right? And the reason this came up, the reason we're talking about this is because developers, always want the latest and greatest, and they want the latest and greatest because, the code's more efficient, it's faster, there's less code to write, and that's especially true of PHP. And we just don't want to have to support legacy stuff like PHP 5.6, but WordPress is now approaching 40% of the entire internet. So about 40% of the entire internet runs on WordPress. And so there is a percentage of those WordPress servers, about 20%, that run a version of PHP that's prior to PHP 7. So there is a conundrum. So that's all the facts. And I'm out. That's it. I'm going to go enjoy my Saturday.
So there was a track ticket that was opened by one of the developers in the community, and basically the argument that ended up happening around this was they wanted to raise the minimum version of PHP up and drop support for 5.6, and they brought a bunch of facts and figures and numbers, and saying that over 80% of installs are on PHP 7 and up, etc. However, our benevolent dictator for life, Mr. Slim Mullenweg, said that no, it's not enough. We need to get the number of people running on a PHP version of 7 or up lower. He thinks it should be down at like 5%. So the developer who opened the track ticket responded with kind of a "I'm taking my ball and going home," closed the track ticket, and said, yeah, and said all these facts and figures aren't going to mean a damn thing when we have this discussion again. So when we're ready to have this discussion, go ahead and open a brand new ticket. Like, screw this discussion. Like, just forget it ever happened. And down the memory hole it goes.
And so there's that all happened, and there's a couple of issues there, right? And so I think the problem with that logic, right? If that is the logic, the problem with that logic is that's based on users, right? If we're saying users, we want the number of users, right, down below 5% or smaller than 20% or whatever that number is going to be. Users have no idea what version of PHP they're running, right? Site owners have no idea what version of PHP they're running, nor do they care. They don't know what version of WordPress they're running. They don't know what version of plugins they're runing. They just want the site to work. That's all they care about. So this is more of a hosting issue.
Yeah, as somebody who's worked at a web host, I can tell you this: three web hosts now. Even the web hosts barely have any idea of what versions of PHP their users are running. Like, we've got stats and figures and everything else, but that's something that we have to like dig into and figure out how dire the situation is. Mm-hmm. And honestly, we're just busy keeping the customer sites and servers and everything else up. We would like them to switch to the newer versions of PHP because they're faster, they're more responsive, better performance, everything else. But if the customer's happy, we don't want to mess with that because that means more issues for our support. So this is like a slippery slope all around. I think Bluehost a few years ago did, and I'll give them credit for this. I don't like to give them credit a lot, but they did a thing where they basically tried to force as many people as possible up on more current versions of WordPress and PHP. And basically like across the board, because they're one of the less expensive hosts out there. Some would say cheaper, but let's just say less expensive hosts. People really just kind of put a WordPress site up and forget about it and don't care about it. And that they realized that they were part of the problem, and they worked on pushing, like raising the tide for a lot of folks.
Right.
Well, and sorry, I didn't cut you off, but the problem there, right?
No.
So the hosts have another problem on the other side of this, where if they go ahead and just upgrade everybody to the latest version of PHP, those sites are going to break because they might not be on the latest version of WordPress. Or if they are on the latest version of WordPress, they may have outdated plugins. There just may be some sort of technology that's in their site that's not compatible with the latest version of PHP because people don't know to update their stuff, right? And so the hosts have a problem as well.
Yeah, they end up seeing something like this, where, like, for instance, it's like, the PHP update is required. This is from the site health, if I remember correctly. But like you end up seeing something like this, and you're just like, wait, it's detected an insecure version of PHP. Okay, what's a PHP, and why is it not secure anymore? I thought I had SSL turned on. What's going on here? Like, it's like that level of mentality.
And jokingly, as we were preparing for this show, I wrote a fake pull request for WordPress core, basically saying, if the version of PHP is less than 7, then write a bunch of expletives about calling your hosts and then die, right? So that the whole thing just doesn't load, right? So, but that there's a problem there, right? Because even if we did something like that where we're forcing it, right? You've got a customer support issue, right? Because any of these messages in the dashboard, the users are going to immediately call the hosts and say, what the hell?
Hosts will do everything they can to avoid an influx of support tickets, whether that be calls, whether that be like physical email tickets, whatever. They're doing everything they can to make sure that the customer is happy. And if that means that the customer is maybe ill-informed and not necessarily knowing that they need to upgrade their PHP, that things would be better for them if they upgraded their site in PHP, then they won't do it.
All they know is something doesn't work, right? So it must be a host. Right. That's as much as they know. Somebody who's not technical, that's all they're going to know is and they're going to call and say, fix my shit.
Yeah.
That's
Whoa. it. Steve with the S-bomb. I was dropping dropping him.
It's Saturday.
Yeah. I was dropping him yesterday before we realized we weren't recording, but wow.
Oh, man.
And so we're stuck, right? Because who makes the first move here, right?
And it's even harder because if you upgrade to get on the latest and greatest, say WordPress 5.5 just came out, like, oh, I'll just upgrade and put myself on the latest and greatest. Well, guess what? If you're running Divi, Elementor, the WooCommerce Square plugin, and WooCommerce itself, you're going to have problems with WooCommerce 5.5 because they just dropped support for jQuery Migrate, and all of those, like most of those plugins require jQuery Migrate. They didn't test their plugin against 5.5 and went, it's always worked in the past. Why the hell not?
That's what doesn't make a lot of sense here, right? Is they're kind of picking and choosing technologies. We're not requiring the latest and greatest PHP, but WordPress 5.5 updates to the latest jQuery, right? Yep. Which, as you said, if you update 5.5 and you're running WooCommerce and you do not upgrade to WooCommerce 4.4 at the same time, you have conflicts. Now, they're not major, but there are dashboard issues that don't allow you to make key edits to your products, right? And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? And so again, I'm kind of stuck here. Who makes the first move here, right? Do you force all this? Because theoretically, WordPress could put something in that says, you know what, if you're running 5.5, WooCommerce 4.4 is required, right? You have to upgrade. You don't get a choice here.
What percentage of WordPress would just break if we were to upgrade it? Is it 20%? Is it 10%? Is it just EIG hosted sites and that's it? Like what percentage is it that we're looking at here?
And does it matter? I mean, what percent is Matt going to be happy, right?
Yeah.
Does it matter? And I'm not calling out Matt here. I'm just saying in general, what does it matter, right? Let's say it's 30% of the sites that are going to break. Okay, 30% of WordPress users are pissed off. Okay, let's say we reduce that down to 5, right? You still have 5% of users that are going to be pissed off, right? And if those 5% happen to be the most vocal users, it doesn't matter. The percentage doesn't matter, right? If those 5% take to Twitter, it's the same results.
Yeah, I mean, when one of the things that, Cosper, I'm going to kind of set you up here, but yesterday on our after show, we kind of started talking a little bit about like what are the ways in which you can kind of approach this, and Cosper started talking, and I'm just going like, we've seen this in the past. So, Cosper, can you talk a little bit about what you wanted to discuss today about that?
Yeah. I really think that, if we want to push WordPress forward, as Steve said, we're kind of picking and choosing on the technologies that we're pushing forward here. Why don't we say with the 5.5 branch, basically declare the 5 branch our long-term support or LTS branch, and say, okay, you can stay on 5.6 if you are, and like try to keep pushing people up. But if you want the latest and greatest, if you want the new hot whatever things we're doing with Gutenberg or with any other core improvements, if you want your site to be as fast as possible, then get on WordPress 6. WordPress 6 will be the new possibly breaking changes. And I know that we have had a great platform that hasn't basically caused like breaking changes over the course of WordPress even being a thing, which is amazing because I know Drupal has had breaking changes in the past where you basically have to like redo your entire Drupal site to move it from Drupal 6 to 7. Joomla.
Look at what Magento. Magento does not even upgrade.
Right. So there's Magento, there's Joomla, there's Drupal. All of these have these breaking changes. I think we don't have to have a hard breaking change like they do, but I think we can say, listen, if you are going to be on WordPress, like 6.0, then you have to have an upgrade. If you want the new features, then you have to push your host. You have to, and we put the pressure on the hosts because they don't want the tickets to kind of upgrade and push, and we use the pressure from the community to force this to happen.
This was happening, for instance, like with Red Hat. Red Hat Linux has been doing this for their enterprise edition for forever. And if you're thinking, what about something that I would normally use as a normal human? Facebook, Firefox itself has its own enterprise solution as well, which, for me working at a church and having software that may be an older version of the software that still needs to run, like a web-based product that needs to run on a browser, I can't have a browser just randomly update and now I can't have something work on a Sunday. So to have something like this, it allows for me to go and say, I can now plan my upgrades and not have it forced upon me. So it's a little bit of a nicer way of kind of approaching this, I think.
It's the right balance, and the extreme of this is what Apple and Google do, right? Apple and Google don't do this at all. They just say, F you. We're going to the latest and greatest, and if you've got outdated technology, it's just incompatible. It's not going to work, right? They do it all the time, right? Yep. And look what happens. Chrome does it all the time, and there's no enterprise version of Chrome. They just sunset stuff, right? So stuff's just not going to work.
And what does the web do in response? They go to where Chrome and to where Chrome is going. So
Apple straight up has a page called Vintage and Obsolete Products.
Yeah. Don't use this stuff anymore. Yeah, just don't use this anymore. We don't support it. That's how they sunset stuff.
Do you have a G4 Quicksilver? Okay, it was made in 2002. You probably don't need to be using that anymore.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I know that somebody's uncle out there is probably still using their G4 Quicksilver Mac, and they love it.
And as long as he doesn't upgrade his OS, fine. As a matter of fact, if you take that computer and you go to upgrade your OS, it won't install. That's what they do. That's fine. You can use it forever. That's fine. You just don't have the latest and greatest stuff. That's fine.
That joke patch that you wrote in chat of die if not, like why not have a patch that says, hey, you can't upgrade because of this. They have been pushing security patches back to WordPress 3.7. What is so different? What is so different about saying you can't upgrade past WordPress 5.5 or 5.6 or whatever if you do not match the minimum PHP requirements?
The host will have to make one key change, right? It's the managed host I'm talking about. So the Liquid Webs of the world, Nexus, WP Engine, there is a button in your panel that says automatically upgrade core. They're going to have to add a little bit of logic into that script that says if PHP equals 5.6, right? If they happen to be running 5.6 on the server, then disable that button. You just don't have auto upgrades anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll write it. I think it's 3 lines of code. I'll submit a pull request for you, Cosper.
Wonderful.
So is it on the host? This goes back to the initial question you had, Steve. Is it on the host? Is it on the user? Is it on WordPress, the community, WordPress, the organization, WordPress, Mr. WordPress himself? Like, what is it that we need to push this and say, okay, we're gonna set these guys aside. All your cat blogs, all your websites you're never gonna update. You forgot you even had a website. At least that thing is as secure as it can be. We'll put on this side, and then on this side of the place, we're gonna make it so that you can do your upgrades, do all your auto upgrades, and kind of make all that stuff happen. Like, how do we do that?
Yeah. So you asked, is it on the host or is it on WordPress? Yes, is the answer, right? So it's kind of on both. But I think I think the WordPress team has to lead this charge, right? They're the ones who have to make this happen, and the hosts will fall in line. Here's the thing: those 20% of people that are on WordPress 5.6, or excuse me, PHP 5.6, or something less than PHP 7, right? That aren't updating their technology. They don't value their site. Right? Those aren't people that are doing anything serious with their site. I'm sorry. And I know that's a bold statement, and there may be exceptions to that rule, but I would bet that the majority of those 20%, right, are people that are running a cat blog. They're people that are paying for $2 shared hosting. Is that even a thing anymore? Is it sub $10 hosting, right? Those are these people, right? And so I'm sorry, if you don't value your site enough to invest in a decent host that cares about this stuff, you lose, or you just run an outdated piece of the software. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks to I always never want to mention it, but thanks to the pandemic, I've been helping a lot of friends get their businesses and just generally like informationally like stuff online. And I am not, even though I work at a host, I'm not necessarily tied to any one host. I say, here are the features and benefits of all these different hosts. Pick the one you want and we'll go with it. So I have looked at most of the large hosts out there, WP Engine, Kinsta, Liquid Web. I've looked at, all of these folks, and the new installs that people are making are all on a PHP version past 7. I mean, I see the default for some of these servers, PHP 7.4, which is like the new.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, and this is, I've even helped a few people on Bluehost, on GoDaddy, and even their new installs are running PHP 7 and up. So
Right.
You're right, Steve, that these people are not the people who are back on 5.6 really are holding back, either because it's a site that they forgot about. It's a site that I know people and some of these people that I've helped set business sites up for, they set up the site and then I'm like, okay, here's how you log in. And I've gone back and looked, this is back like in March. I've gone back and looked and they haven't touched anything on their site in months.
And again, if you're out there and you're listening to this podcast, right, and you're not working with a developer, and you haven't logged into your dashboard, you're not working with one of the hosts that Cosper just mentioned, right? This is a site that you just haven't really looked at or cared about, right? This applies to you, right? If it is a site that you actually want to keep, you need to maintain it. Whether that's doing it on your own, or hiring somebody to go look at this for you, or just working with a decent host. Any of these things are going to help kind of solve this for you. Here's the thing. WordPress gets a new version, about now every 4 to 6 months, right? We're getting new versions of WordPress. PHP is coming out with a new version every year, right? So they're on a similar cycle, right? So 7.3 is the current one that's good, that's supported through December of 2021. Like Cosper said, 7.4 just came out last year. It's supported through 2022. PHP 8 is due out at the end of this year. So it's not something. If you don't do this, you're gonna get left behind at some point.
Yeah.
And the jump from PHP 5.6 to 7, just making that jump makes your site from a performance perspective so much faster.
Absolutely.
And when PHP comes out, when we get that little Christmas present in December or so, we're going to end up with an even faster, because PHP 8 is going to have some just-in-time compiling stuff that's thrown in and everything else. It's going to get even faster. And the people who hold back are going to, still just be on this old, outdated stuff. And I mean, it's in the host's interest really to get people on the latest and greatest versions of PHP, because that is a lower cost. They are consuming fewer resources, serving up individual hits. So basically the lower their cost is, the better. There is a Make WordPress hosting group in the core Slack and on make.wordpress.org. And if you work with a web host, especially, go hang out in that channel, go be heard in that channel, maybe they need to have a listening session with people who just end users and kind of open that up. And see like what the concerns are with upgrading PHP, with pushing people towards upgrading PHP.
And as a site owner, at a minimum, your host should offer you one of two things, right? They should have a PHP compatibility checker, right? So that if you are on an older version of PHP and you're looking to upgrade, you can run this compatibility checker. It'll let you know if your site is ready to go or if you've got problems. If they don't have that, barring that, they should have a staging area for you where you can go copy your site over to the staging area and test it on the new version of PHP. If your host doesn't offer you one of those two things and you value your website, you should consider moving hosts.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And moving hosts is not difficult anymore. It used to be a thing. It's not a thing anymore. It's so much easier.
Liquid Web Nexus and WP Engine all offer a migration tool. They do it for you.
Yeah.
And even if the host that you're considering moving to doesn't have a migration tool, the people who basically wrote the migration tools for all of those people, Migrate Guru is in the plugin directory, and it works fantastically.
Mm-hmm.
You give them your email address, you get to deal with the occasional, hey, you should use Migrate Guru for all your sites, blah, blah, sort of junk mail.
Yeah.
But oh my God, it's so easy.
Yeah.
You give them FTP or SFTP details, or you give them, if they are partnered with one of the hosts like Flywheel, you give them login information and they just handle it.
Yep. And if you don't value your site, fine, let it die. That's fine. That's okay.
It will.
That's okay. Die. At least we'll reduce those percentages.
That's what I'm saying is I don't know what percentage of the sites would break if we did a full-blown forced upgrade of everything, and how much of that would survive? How much of the 40% would survive the apocalypse?
It's Y2K all over again, Jason. We're going to have one gas pump out in Barstow go down.
Right.
That's true. Oh my goodness. Hey, well, thank you, both of you, for doing this show, especially on a Saturday. I know I have plenty of things going on today. Steve, on the other hand, said, it's just like every other day.
It is.
This could be a Tuesday right now. I wouldn't even know.
Doesn't matter.
You can tell if you're watching the video, you can tell I just rolled out of bed by the bedhead hair quarantine haircut that I've got going on right now.
All right.
I broke quarantine and got mine done. So there you go. All right, guys. Talk to y'all later. Here's our outro. Help us out on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/WPwatercooler. We'd really appreciate your support over there. Here's the fine folks that helped us out. Thank you very much for all that you're doing for helping us out over there. If you want to get listed on there, you can do that as well. Hit the subscribe button, click the little bell so you'll be notified when we go live again. And if you're not aware, the show is also a podcast. I've actually been pushing these podcasts out the same time in which we've launched these shows. So go over to our website at WPwatercooler.com/subscribe to learn how to subscribe to that stuff. Talk to y'all later. You have a good one.